Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I'm Chris Horwedel, back again, because who else would do it? As I've said these first couple of episodes, thank you guys so much for the support that you have shown, both listening to the podcast and checking it out on YouTube. The YouTube stuff is especially cool. I think we had 13,000+ people check it out on YouTube last week. Would love to see that number a little higher this week. Love to see what we can do, see if we could break some records, because it is March, and we're going to talk about the madness that comes along with it. March Madness in full effect right now. We're in the midst of day one of March Madness, and it's actually the first time I get the opportunity to record a little bit in advance, because we have the lines for the Friday games, day 2 of the first round of March Madness, and that's what we're going to dig into. I've got bovadasportsbook.com open in front of me, my favorite site for odds on March Madness, and we're going to dig into it. I will say the likelihood is that this show is going to be a little bit shorter than it has been the past couple of weeks, because let's not kid ourselves. It's March. We want the picks. We don't need all the stuff that goes along with it. You don't need to hear me talk about how I think Chet Holmgren would be a fun fit on the Pelicans. You want the picks, and that's what we're going to do. Let's dive right into it. The first game we're going to hit is number 10, Loyola Chicago, the Ramblers, versus number 7, Ohio State. And we're showing, pull this up right here. We're showing that Loyola is, they're going to win this game about 48% of the time. They're one of the hot underdog picks for the first round. I just think that we're buying into what's happened over the past couple of years a little bit too much here. I think this is an opportunity to get solid odds. This looks like a pick'em right now, as a matter of fact, on Bovada. That's surprising, crazy, all of the like. Looks like it's a pick'em right now. We're going to take Ohio State, just the outright winner. That's what I think we're going to get. We're going to start our parlay this week with the minus 110 at Ohio State. Like I said, Loyola, the story is great. It's fun. Lucas Williamson is a really nice player. Their guard, sort of a do-it-all guard. He leads the team in scoring at 14 a game, and assists at 5 a game. They were 25-7 on the year, second place in the MVC behind Northern Iowa. Obviously made some noise in the tournament, but they're living on legacy. They're living on legacy, and I think that's the way it is. They were a fun team. I'm not saying they're a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. It's just, if what has happened over the past couple of years hadn't happened, if they hadn't made the magical run, we wouldn't be talking about them beating Ohio State. No chance in the world. Ohio State, I talked about them being led by E.J. Liddell earlier on a previous episode, and yeah, that's true. Liddell, their leading scorer at 19.6 points per game. Their leading assists guy, their leading rebounder as well at 7.9 per game. But I think the story in the second half of the season for Ohio State, who finished 19-11, fourth place in the Big Ten, has been the emergence of Malachi Branham. All of a sudden, Malachi Branham, he's probably going to be picked above E.J. Liddell. We're talking about a guy, when it's all said and done, he's going to flirt with the lottery when the NBA draft rolls around in June. He is going to flirt with the lottery, probably picked in that 15 to 22 range when it's all said and done. This is a guy who, his emergence has changed what this Buckeyes team looks like. They're dangerous because you get that additional score. It was, there really wasn't much behind Liddell. It was Kyle Young and Zed Key, Jamari Wheeler. But there wasn't a second double-digit scorer until Branham emerged. And also shooting the crap out of the ball from three, 42.5% from three. It's a player to watch, and potentially has the chance to be and sort of propel himself the way Dante DiVincenzo did a couple of years ago when he had that crazy run. When I'm not suggesting Ohio State's going to win the national championship. I think it's very unlikely. But when DiVincenzo had that great run for when Villanova won the championship, ended up beating Michigan in a bit of a laugher. Sorry, Michigan fans. But Branham's stock could be similar to what happened with DiVincenzo that year. And it's a story to watch. We're actually showing Loyola covering what was previously a 1-point line, now a pick'em. We're showing them covering about 57% of the time. I don't care. I think this is a media creation, and I think the Buckeyes end up winning this game. I don't see a match for EJ Liddell. I don't think they're gonna be able to slow down Branham. We're gonna take, like I said, our first pick, Ohio State -110 at Bovada, and feel good about that. Feel good about that as a start. It's gonna be one of the games we're gonna pick against the spread. Look, there's a lot of laughers in this first round, as you would imagine, with top seeds facing off against the low seeds, and we're gonna live on those money lines. We're gonna eat a little bit there, but this is gonna be one of our picks. Moving on to the next game. We're going to talk about this Jacksonville State. I don't mean to laugh. This Jacksonville State Auburn game. The Jacksonville State Gamecocks, 21-10 on the year. They're going to win about 7% of the time, is what our numbers show here. They're going to win about 7 times out of 100 against the Auburn Tigers, the number 2 Auburn Tigers in this tournament. Let's talk about Jacksonville State, though. Let's be fair here. 21-10 in the season. They finish first place in the ASUN West, 21-10 overall, 13-3 in conference. Their leader is Darian Adams, the guard, who, look, one-dimensional is what I would say. I don't see what you get. He's not a guy who scares me. 15.6 points per game. Fine, numbers are fine, but nothing is particularly good. Nothing is scary, and I don't see him being able to drive the way he's been accustomed to in the ASUN when you're talking about a guy like Walker Kessler in the lane. Historic block rates for Walker Kessler at Auburn. Auburn finished 27-5 on the year. First place in the SEC, game over second place Tennessee, game over Kentucky, and that's worth talking about. Look, if you followed the show, I've had really bad luck picking Auburn, but we're not going to pick this one. We're not going to pick a spread here. We're not messing around with that. Auburn, it's Auburn -15.5 at Bovada. I'm not going to predict a 15.5 point win here. We're just going to take the money line. We're going to sit on that money line. Like I said, the money line is where we're going to eat today. I will say this is something it's interesting to keep an eye on. And I talked about the NBA draft a little bit earlier. Jabari Smith, of all top NBA forward when wing prospects, I guess we should say, is the single most rim-averse prospect that we've had in decades, certainly at the forward position. 14% of his attempts come from at the basket, which, like I said, last place amongst all top prospects, is tied with Reggie Bullock, a guy who went on to be a three-point specialist in the NBA. And there is this notion that when there's more spacing at the NBA level, Jabari is going to be able to straight line drive a little bit more. I just don't think it's ever going to come. Like I said, I see like a Rashard Lewis comparison. That's not an insult to Jabari, and that's certainly not an insult to Rashard Lewis. But I that's what I think he is. I think he's Rashard Lewis, and there's a place for that. The guy's an incredible shooter for his size, but just doesn't like going to the basket. Our numbers show that Jacksonville State is actually going to cover this 15.5 about 51% of the time. So coin flip there. We're not going to worry about it. The numbers aren't great. We're only going to get minus 1,600 at Bovada on this for the Auburn money line, but that is what you expect, quite frankly. 2 picks in. Our parlay is going to sit plus 103 for day 2 of March Madness. Let's go. Our next game is going to be the Montana State game against Texas Tech. 14 seed Montana State Bobcats against the number 3 seed Texas Tech Red Raiders. We're showing that Texas Tech's going to win this one out right about 95% of the time. 95% of the time. It's a lot. Tech has been struggling a little bit lately. They lose that last one to Colorado 94-90 and have losses to South Dakota State and New Mexico in there as well. This is an interesting one, and this is another one where I see a cover opportunity here. I do think Texas Tech's going to win the game, but this is another minus 1,600, and what does that get us? We want to put numbers up. It's we want to buy into the madness, as it were. Texas Tech is 25-9 on the year, third in the Big 12. Bryson Williams, their leading scorer. Kevin McCullough, their leading assist man. And Williams also tops the team in accuracy at 53.4%. Montana State, it's been an interesting season. And also, I'm pretty sure I just was talking about Montana State and misspoke when I said Texas Tech. But regardless, we're showing that Texas Tech's going to cover 53% of the time. Recent history doesn't tell me that. Recent history says we have a shot at a cover from Montana State here. Probably not an outright win. That would be a fun plus 800. But the minus 15 is a pretty daunting number. Montana State is 4-1-1 as an away dog. Texas Tech 15-1 as a favorite. 15-11, pardon me. So, not crushing this game. I'm just going to say that outright. Regardless, you've been listening. You know what direction I'm going. We're going to take a Montana State cover. We're going to say Montana State plus 15 is going to get us a minus 115 at Bovada. And that is going to bring our parlay, now 3 picks in, up to a plus 279. So, almost 3xing our money right now. Next game we're going to talk about is number 14 Yale, the Bulldogs, versus the number 3 Purdue Boilermakers. We're showing Purdue is going to win this game about 96% of the time. Yale was 19-11, second place in the Ivies behind Princeton, but they're dancing and Princeton is not. So the Bulldogs have won 3 of their last 5 wins over Vassar, UMass, and Siena, and their losses to Seton Hall and Vermont. Best player is Azir Swain, and this is a legitimate basketball player. This is a guy who I think we're going to be talking about. This is a guy who I wouldn't be surprised if we were talking about as a fringy NBA player. I'm a big Swain fan. And, could be one of the breakout stars of the tournament should Yale be able to do the unimaginable here and send the Boilermakers home. Purdue 27-7 on the year, third place in the Big Ten behind Illinois and Wisconsin. They're led by Jaden Ivey. We all know Jaden Ivey is a top 5 pick in the NBA draft in a couple of months. He's a guy who reminds me of Donovan Mitchell. A lot of Donovan Mitchell in Jaden Ivey. Fun player, athletic, bouncy, plays defense, plays above the rim. A guy who is going to make an NBA team really happy in a couple of years. I don't know if he's an instant impact guy, but once he gets his feet under him, this is going to be a very good NBA player for a long time. Purdue has won their last 8 games. Only a loss to Rutgers stopped them from a 13-game winning streak. Although I will say not a ton of big time wins. They do beat number 5 Villanova in there, but Villanova has been, as much as it pains me to say this, streaky. We're showing that Purdue is going to cover this line, which is minus 16.5 at Bovada. We're showing that they're going to cover this about 56% of the time. And yeah, I feel I feel comfortable with that. I don't like to bet the big lines because so much can happen. Anybody, Jaden Ivey can have an off night. Zach Edey can have an off night. And you win, but you don't cover. Plus 1,700 is not overly exciting, but that's where we're going to land. We're just going to add on to our parlay a little bit here. Minus 1,700 at Bovada for the Purdue money line. And that is going to bring our parlay, which is now 4 games in, up to plus 302. Not bad, but we want to get that up, no question about it. And quite frankly, this is probably not going to be the place we're going to do it. Let's talk about the number 15 Delaware Blue Hens versus the number 2 Villanova Wildcats, a seasoned tournament team. We're showing Nova's going to win this one about 96% of the time. Delaware, a little bit of a Cinderella run just to get here, right? 22-12, which was good for 4th place in the CAA, but they go on to win the tournament. They get in, and Bellarmine is a crazy thing that we're watching. We're watching this Delaware team play basketball right now. Their best player, you may have heard of him, point guard Jameer Nelson Jr. In 31 minutes a game, he shot about 38% from the field, 14.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, 2.1 assists. Is he Jameer Nelson? No. Does he look a lot like Jameer Nelson? Yes, he does, but maybe not the distributor that his dad was. A heck of a player for Delaware, though. Do you feel like they wish they could trot out Deladon? Would Deladon be one of the 3 best players on this Blue Hens team? Probably, right? Leave your thoughts on that in the comments. And by the way, if I should have said it, thanks. I did thank you for supporting the channel, supporting the show. Please like, subscribe if you're listening to the podcast. The same thing if you're watching it on YouTube. Give us a like. Stop right now. Hit that like button. Do that for us. Smash that like button. I feel dirty saying that. Subscribe, share, do all that cool stuff. Help us continue to grow and help us keep making cool stuff because we've got some really cool stuff coming down the line for you. Villanova, 26-7, number 6 team in the country, 2 on their side of the bracket. They end up 2nd place in the Big East, though. Win the tourney. Beat UConn. It's a good team. It's just, tonight, the best thing you can say about Villanova is their season. You have Colin Gillespie, who has been at Villanova since 1983. A steady hand at the point guard position, qualifying for AARP in just a few years. But they've been around. They know what they're doing, and the stage isn't going to be too big for them. They don't have the superstars they've had in the past, but the lights aren't going to be too bright. They're not going to get scared. They're not going to be intimidated. They're going to play their game. They're not going to be forced out of it. And they're certainly going to beat Delaware. Now, I don't know if they're going to beat Delaware by 15.5 points, which is the line at Bovada right now, but they're unquestionably going to beat the Blue Hens. So, we're actually showed Delaware covering this line about 63% of the time. They're going to cover this one is what our numbers show. Can't root against the Cats. Regardless of what that number may say, it's just inherent bias. Delaware 3-3 is an away dog. Who cares about an away dog? There's 4-6 is an underdog. Puts them under 500. Nova's 15-12-1 as a favorite. Plus 1,700 doesn't do a ton, as we saw in this Purdue game. But we're going to hop on the plus 1,700 at Bovada, which is going to bring our parlay a little bit higher. We're sitting plus 325 now. Maybe we'll add some bonus picks at the end of this thing and get this number up a little bit. because I think we've been in the 13 to 15 X range for the last handful of shows, and I think that's where we should be. We do have a couple of spread picks left, so let's see where that goes. Up next, we're going to scroll down. These games don't interest us. This one does. Number 11, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, 23-10 on the season versus the number 6 Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's talk about Notre Dame, who, by the way, our number says is going to win this game about 35% of the time, 1-3, more or less. Let's talk about Notre Dame, 23-10 in the ACC. They finish in a tie for second place with North Carolina. I just felt like they never got the respect. Their best player is Blake Wesley. No question about it. Blake Wesley is a guy who, if he enters the draft this year, the 6'5 freshman's probably going to be a top 20 pick. If he comes back to Notre Dame for another year, builds on what he's done, and probably most importantly, cleans up that three-point shot, irons out the mechanics, bumps that average up from 31% up to you'd like to see 37, 38%. I think he's a potential top 10 pick in the 2023 draft. I really do. I think that highly of Blake Wesley. Just a fun player to watch. Slithers through double teams. Just hits cracks. He's like an NFL running back. Hits cracks that even you didn't think were there. The Alabama Crimson Tide were 19-13, 5th place in the SEC, but 5th place in the SEC is not an insult. Their leading scorer is Jaden Shackelford. The guard averaged 16.7 points per game. Former Villanova Wildcat Javon Quinterly at the point. Their leading assist man, 6.2 points per game. Their best prospect, however, is kind of a toss-up. It's either guard Keon Ellis, 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 1.8 assists, or high-flying, maybe the most athletic man in college basketball today, high-flying freshman point guard J.D. Davidson, only 8.5 points per game, 4.8 rebounds, 4.2 assists, and you wish the three-point shooting percentage was higher. Speaking of Wesley, Davidson's only at 29.3%, but he's an athlete. It's a ball of clay, and you're picking him for what he could be, not what he is right now as a draft prospect. Though Ellis his floor is higher, his ceiling is a little bit lower than Davidson's. There's Dennis Smith Jr. You can't shake the Dennis Smith Jr. stuff, but an interesting player. Don't expect too much. And Davidson's another guy like Blake Wesley. We should be talking about him as a top 10 pick in the draft next year rather than trying to force something that isn't there right now. We're showing that Alabama's going to cover this thing about 69% of the time. That's what our numbers say, but that's not what our gut says. Spoilers. I love me some Notre Dame in this game. I think Notre Dame is going to outright win this one. And this is probably going to be our biggest money opportunity of the day. I think Notre Dame is going to outright win this one. They're 9-5 as an underdog. By the way, Alabama, 7-18 as a favorite. 9-5 versus 7-18. Which one do you like? I like me some money line. Notre Dame plus 160 here at Bovada. And that is going to take our parlay now 6 picks in from plus 325 to plus 1,005. 1000. These are the numbers we were looking for. This is where we wanted to be. This is where we wanted to eat. And we've got 2 more games to go. Let's get ourselves up to that 12 or 1,300. That's where I want to be. And guess what? There's some interesting games left. Let's talk about Virginia Tech versus Texas. The number 11 Virginia Tech Hokies take on the number 6 Texas Longhorns. We're showing Texas is going to win this one about 51% of the time. Virginia Tech's got some stuff. They've got some players. They finished, 23-12, 7th place in the ACC. But again, like finishing 3rd or 4th in the SEC, this is not embarrassing when you're behind teams like Virginia, like Miami, Notre Dame, North Carolina, Duke. The ACC was strong. There's nothing to be embarrassed about here, and most importantly, they finished things. The Hokies finished strong. Won their last 5 wins over Maine, Navy, Radford, St. Francis, and Merrimack. Yeah, not the biggest of competition, but a win's a win. And that's what's important here. I'm looking at these games going on right now. Kentucky up 5-2 over St. Peter's. People liked St. Peter's. Didn't make sense to me, the St. Peter's cover. But neither here nor there. Texas was 21-11 on the season, 4th place in the Big 12 behind Texas Tech, Baylor, and Kansas. Their best player, or at least their leading scorer, is forward Timmy Allen. Their point guard, Marcus Carr, was the leading assist guy at 3.2 a game. I just don't think Texas has a ton. Carr also their second leading scorer. Andrew Jones has been there forever. Courtney Ramey feels like he's been there forever. They strike me as underwhelming. And this is a team that had Kevin Durant and still couldn't advance. We're showing Virginia Tech's going to cover this thing about 78% of the time, and it is a 1-point line. So I think you can see where we're going here. We're going to hop all over the Virginia Tech money line, minus 105 at Bovada, and that'll be our 7th pick in this parlay right here. That is going to take our total once a mere 1,005. Our parlay right now, 7 picks in, plus 2058. We're going to 20x our money. I like that. If somebody said, hey, give me $1 and I'll give you 20, I think you would take it. I would. And that's what we're talking about here. Our last game in the official line here is going to be the Cal State Fullerton game. The number 15 Cal State Fullerton Titans take on the number 2 Duke Blue Devils. We're showing Duke is going to win this one about 97% of the time. And maybe too low, quite frankly. Although, maybe too low. But weird things happen in March. The Titans 21-10, second place in the Big West behind Long Beach State. Their leading scorer, EJ Anisaki, a bruising forward who is going to make a lot of money playing overseas. 16.5 points per game, 8.3 rebounds, 1.8 assists, just under a steal. No blocks. No, 0.3 blocks and turns the ball over. Negative assist to turnover. A little bit of a shooter from the outside at 26.3%. He's also their leading rebounder. Damari Milstead, the leading assist guy for this, and steal guy for this Titans team, 2.8 and 2, respectively. I talked about Duke a lot last week. I think there's 5 future pros on the roster right now, at least 5 future pros on the roster right now. 28-6, first place in the ACC. Tough loss to North Carolina a few weeks ago. But if anything, I think it's going to make them stronger. They've won what? Their last 7 games. It's hard. This is tempting because they want to show who they are after a slightly disappointing season in Coach K's last year here. However, minus 18.5 is a big number. Don't get me wrong. There's not a chance that Cal State Fullerton is going to beat Duke. There's too much talent on that Duke roster. And we're also showing Duke covering this thing about 85% of the time. And that's at a plus 19 rather than the plus 18.5 at Bovada right now. Man, this, I feel like our number's pretty good right now. Our number's where we want it to be, so do we want to mess around with it? The answer, of course, is yes. Yes, we do. We're going to take, in our final pick this week, we're going to take Duke to cover the 18.5. It's going to go minus 115 at Bovada. And that is going to take our parlay, now a full 8 picks in, up to plus 39.35. 39.35. You bet $1 at Bovada. and you're going to walk away. If you've listened to what I said, you're going to walk away with $39.30. If you'd like to wager more than that, that's entirely up to you. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to make you money. And I think we've accomplished that. I said we were going to be shorter than usual. Didn't really get that much shorter, to be quite frank. I think we had our longest show last week at about 42 minutes. Probably too long. But 30 minutes seems like the sweet spot. So that is going to be the show for this week. This week's episode of In Pursuit of a Parlay. I've been Chris Horwedel. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Horwedel. Follow Underdog at the Underdog Pods. Like I said, if you haven't hit that like button, I don't know why you haven't yet, but do it now. Do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Do the world a favor. Let's have more underdog. A little more underdog in our lives. Things are getting weird here. Good luck to your teams, and may your brackets find success. I'll see you next week.